How about a little viewer mail? It's a question from a viewer, and it's a viewer mail. I don't know if I can answer all this exactly the way it should be answered, but I'll answer it my way. It's from Stefan from Long Island. It says, so we have watched a lot of your videos, read the news in Village's newspaper, and seen other media concerning crime and security in the villages. Well, the crime is very, very, very low here. It's the lowest in the state of Florida. It's nothing to worry about. Security is very tight. We pay for Community Watch, and Community Watch goes to everybody's neighborhood or village several times a day and all night long. So not a whole lot gets by them. If you're drunk in a golf cart, and even if you're a villager, you might be in trouble with them also. They don't look for just outsiders. And matter of fact, when they're coming through, they don't know who an outsider is and who an outsider isn't. If they see something going on, they're going to report you. We are deeply concerned about what we hear, such as homes being rented out to people who do not live in the villages. Well, that's a wrong statement. If they rent a home in the villages, then they live in the villages. And I had my home and I rented it out. I had to forego my village residency, my residency right. I know a lot of them nowadays don't do that, but I felt like for as much as people pay for rent in the wintertime, if you're going to be so cheap as to try to charge your renters an extra $50 lousy, but yet you want to collect $3,000 and $4,000 a month and then charge them $50 lousy. I mean, come on. You want to talk about the developer being greedy? That's pretty chintzy if you ask me. So anyway, whenever I rented mine out, I always rented mine out in wintertime for January, February, and March. It was always the same people. They had to take it for the whole 3 months, or I wouldn't rent it at all. That was my choice. I never had a problem. And so when I would go home after Thanksgiving, because we always came down here for a Thanksgiving holiday, I would stop by Spanish Springs. Back then, it was all done in Spanish Springs. Today, you can probably do it at other places too. Maybe Rohan, I don't know where else. But you go in, you fill out a short little form. They want to know the renter's name, the home address, of course me, my house. How long are they going to be here? The dates. The dates are going to arrive, the dates are going to leave. And then you would hand them your residency card, the card with my picture on it, that card. And then they would put it in an envelope with that information, and then my renters, when they got here, would go to Spanish Springs to the same office with their ID, picture ID, and they would pick up, I paid for it. Our villages does charge, well, back then they did, I don't know what it is today, they did charge $50 for me to transfer my rights. I paid that $50. I'm not going to charge somebody, I think I got $38.50 a month for January, February, and March. I did not have the greediness in me to charge them an extra $50 when they paid me $3,850 to rent that place for 3 months in a row, which is a total of, you do the math, or what is that, 11 grand, something like that. And I got that money 45 days before occupancy. So they had to send me a certified check or something way ahead of time. I'm not going to chintz out on 50 bucks. I'm sorry, but I'm firm on that. There's a lot of people around here that's just downright greedy. And it ain't just a developer. But they had the rights. They were residents. With that pass, once I give them those rights on that resident card, they pick up a temporary resident card. They don't get mine. They get a temporary resident card. At that point, I'm not a resident. I have no resident rights. I have maybe property owner rights, but I have no resident rights. No amenities, no free amenities for me. I'm now the guest. If I want to come down here, my renters typically would have to get me a guest pass. So they are village residents at that point, at least for 3 months. Including the use of rental homes for slave trafficking. I've never heard of that, not here. I mean, I'm not saying it don't happen maybe somewhere, but I'll be honest with you, I've never read an article like that. I've never heard of that. The only slave trafficking, when it wasn't called slave trafficking, it was called human trafficking, and that was the guy over in Wildwood that had that restaurant over there called, I can't remember the name of it now, it was an Italian restaurant. I'm sure somebody watching this will watch it below. He was charged with human trafficking. He was not a villager. He didn't live in the villages. Kids coming in and using homes for drug sales. Well, when you say kids, they're really not kids. They're actually adults. There was one drug bust that I know of, major drug bust, and that was in the village of Palo Alto, I believe it was, up there by Tierra del Sol. There was an elderly man living there, and if I remember, you have to go back and read the article somewhere. I read it on one of the news, I don't know which one it is, that he had a niece, I think, come down to help. They always say that, to help. And then she had some druggy friends that came in, and yes, they were selling drugs out of that house. They were turned in. The police had been watching them for a while. They were collecting evidence, and then they busted all of them. The poor old guy, I think he ended up selling the house, or somebody sold it for him, and then he went to an assisted living up north around family members to help take care of him. But as far as I know, that's really been the only, I'll say, major drug bust here. Other than that, there's been some minor stuff. People get caught, I don't know, in a car smoking marijuana or something, but you don't know if they're villagers or not villagers. I don't know of any major drug busts that's really happening in the villages off the top of my head. Under 55 kids, living with retired mom and holding a knife to her throat. That may have happened. I don't, somehow that does sound a little familiar, but that might have been like one incident. When you got 140,000 people and one incident, you can only hope the mom learned her lesson. But yeah, I do kind of remember that. And there has been an issue here with kids living here with parents. And the parents and grandparents know these kids have problems. They drag them in here anyway. And to me, it's just an insult to the rest of the retired people here. People come in here with 19-year-old or older can live here full time. Anybody under 19, 30 days a year per calendar year, they got to go. They can't come back. You know, what can I tell you? I mean, all around the world, parents do stupid things to help their kids, and they're not helping anybody, but they think they are. So, yeah, that happens. I don't like it either. I know this is a different direction than what you're used to doing, but I've got a ring light. You're probably seeing my glasses, sorry. I just kind of threw things over here, and to finish this viewer question. It says, we have watched a lot of your videos, read news in villages newspapers, and seen other media concerning crime and security in the villages. Well, there ain't much crime here. There's very little. And the crime that we do have here, it's all really misdemeanor stuff. You know, some old guy driving a golf cart under the influence of beer, drinking and driving. Some people seem to think if you're in a golf cart you can drink in there, but you can't. I'm trying to think, the only other crimes in the villages, not just around the villages, in the villages, residents, sometimes older people, and this doesn't happen very often, but they'll get into a little squabble about something, and then a neighbor hears all the noise, and so they'll call the police. In the newer area where they're building homes, outsiders will come in, and this happens every now and then, not a lot, but it does happen, and they steal. Because the houses that they're building, they're not locked. And when they get done painting the inside of a house, when they're getting close to finishing up, they usually leave the doors, garage doors open, the front doors open. And now, of course, this is a rainy season, maybe not now, but here they did. They left all the doors open. And Sue and I, we was one of the first people to move in this neighborhood. There was nobody here. And we used to walk around the neighborhood, and we would actually walk in these brand new houses and look at them. They were unlocked. So they have caught a few people that goes into new houses and they steal microwaves and washing machines and things, but they don't generally get by with it. They get caught. The only other thing that happens, and this is usually when somebody is living with somebody. Grandpa's grandson comes down, you know, a 44-year-old kid that can't seem to make it on his own. He moves in with grandpa. That's, in a lot of cases, that's where trouble starts. He just looks at elderly people as being easy targets. And that's the guy that said he'll paint your house for a cheap price, and he gets a down payment and then never comes back. That's the guy that goes out at night with local people, not villagers. He'll make friends with people in Lady Lake or wherever, and next thing you know, this is the same guy that's stealing golf carts. And, you know, in the villages itself,
crime is very low. The Villages was voted the safest, I'll say city, but actually it's not a city, but the safest place to live in Florida. There's nowhere safer. So the idea of talking about, you know, random crime being rampant or whatever that's totally wrong. The news that I give on Friday, and you might think that's a lot, sometimes that news is 3 weeks in collecting it, because I don't do news sometimes every Friday. Like I didn't do it this Friday. You're not going to see news Friday. You may not see news next Friday. So the next time you see news, it might be 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, I go through 3 weeks worth of stuff. I read reports every day. So there'll be almost 21 days of news. And I'll go through there and I'll pick out 20 minutes or a half an hour of what I would consider to be reportable news. And I usually try to pick out the worst of the worst. So what you see on there sometimes is 3 weeks worth of stuff. And in a city this size, we're 100, give or take 140,000 people and getting larger by the minute. The crime here is super, super low. You don't need to worry about protecting yourself. You don't need to worry about going out after dark. You don't need to worry about getting up early in the morning. Sue, like I said before, Sue and her girlfriends go walking every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark out. And they go walking 2 miles. They walk down the golf cart path down toward Wildwood and then turn around and come back. And so they haven't had any problem in 6 years. In 6 years, there's never been a problem. And in my neighborhood, this whole area here actually, I can only think of one time some new resident moved in, and I don't know if this person was a resident of the home, a visitor of the home, or who they were. I don't even know if they were even a resident here. But when they built Manatee Rec Center, there was some whack job that would duck down behind the bushes by the front door. And when people would try to walk into the Manatee Rec Center to look around, because it was brand new, they just opened it, he would jump out and scare them. And he did this several times till finally there's people that work in the rec center that, I guess they told him to leave or something. He refused to leave or didn't leave or whatever the case may be. They just called the police. They arrested him. And you know, he was probably drunk. Anyway, they sent him home, and we haven't heard from the guy since. So that's you think about crime, that's pretty minuscule, you know, so don't worry about crime here. There isn't that much to worry about. I don't even lock my doors half the time, you know. Call me stupid if you want. I've never had a problem once. The other little drug things you see about the Villages is usually people smoking marijuana, which is really a misdemeanor anymore. Now, there's not that much of that stuff here. And the people that do have drugs here, it's people that live outside the Villages. You know, when I say arrested in the Villages, that don't mean they lived here. All these roads are public. People drive through here all the time, going to and from work. So also, many entrances are gated and restricted entry to only those that live and reside in the community. That's not true. All these roads are public. There's no gate here that restricts anybody from coming in. We're a community with gates. We are not a gated community. Huge difference. Those gates are there for specific reasons, but they're definitely not there to keep anybody out. Anybody can come through. If you go to an unmanned gate, poke the red button, it'll open up, you come on in. The cards that residents use is for really our own protection. So if you get lost, if people here are elderly, they have sometimes problems. They get lost, or they have early stages of Alzheimer's, things like that. They get lost. So if they use this gate card, like they really want you to, that's a way for the Sumter County Police or maybe Lake County, whoever county you're in, they can go up to the command center up at the community watch building, CDD building up there, and they go back in the sheriff's office back there, where there's a room back there where he goes, and they can bring all this stuff up on the computer, and if he uses his card at every gate to go in and out of the Villages, even if he is lost, they can track him. They know where he's been, the direction he's heading, and they can alert the other officers to start looking in this area, and 99 times out of 100 they find them just that quick. They also alert all the manned guard shacks, the car, license plate number, description of the driver. So if he goes by any manned guard shack, if we see the guy, we generally will try to hold him. We keep the gate down. We can't lock them gates down. I did that once to help a guy, and it was no big deal. If anything, the poor guy was scared. He knew he was lost. He needed help, and we got him home. I mean, that's what the card really does. It helps them find you if they need to, but it doesn't restrict anybody else from coming in. As far as I know, such communities, a person over 18 may stay. No, not here. Here it's 19. You can stay full time, yes. Do I have a problem with it? Yes and no. If they have a mental problem or there's some physical problem where they have to stay home to be cared for, then the answer is no. I don't have a problem with it. They have a problem, and the parents are trying to deal with it, or grandparents, whatever the case may be, the best they can. If they're 30-year-old kids that are just a tick on mommy and daddy, and they just come down here to live off of them and do nothing for the rest of their life except bug everybody else, I have a problem with that. I wish there was a way we could restrict the community with those people, but I don't see that ever happening because of all the whiners in the world. Equal rights, age discrimination. You know those people, right? He wants to know why other people are allowed to come in and out of the community if we pay for everything. We don't pay for everything. We don't pay for these roads. We don't pay for the utilities in the roads. Electric, sewer, gas if you have it in your area. That's all public utilities also. So there's no way the residents here could pay for the installation of highways and bridges and all that. A lot of that is taxpayer based. Some of it is paid, but definitely the roads is public roads. So that's why taxpayers are allowed to use them. If you want to be into a true gated community where you pay everything, road maintenance, gates, you got to pay a guard, liability for that guard, health insurance, all this kind of stuff, you're not going to find any place in Florida where you're going to pay $162 a month to have all that. I've been in communities that were truly restricted, 55 and over, 65 and over, and you had to be that. And there was no renting. You couldn't rent nothing in there either. I mean, they were very restrictive. And yeah, the $162 for everything we got here, 3,000 plus clubs, all the golf in the world, and all that kind of stuff for 162 bucks, it's a pretty good bargain. So I've yet to see the police, sheriff, and anybody else's videos. Well, the police don't come here. They don't come here unless they're called. That's what the community watch is for. They work hand in hand with the different police departments. They patrol the communities. They're 24/7. They never take a day off. They're always cruising around. Morning, noon, and night. You'll see them all over the place. They cruise every village in the villages. And if there's anything going on, they're really not supposed to approach anybody or anything like that, but they'll get on that radio and they'll have the police out here in just a minute. He may pull off the side of the road, he may just observe, but he's called the police. And the police take the call from them very serious. And they will come out and they do take care of matters. So that's basically your police in the villages. Community watch. And response time, well, when they call the police, it don't take them very long. Now, when I was a guard shack guy out here, there was a Sumter County Sheriff's officer, I won't say his name, he came by about a couple times a month on my shift. I worked midnight till 6. I like that shift. And he would come by and sit out there, because there's nobody. Everybody here goes to bed by 10 o'clock. There's nobody up. And he would sit out there in his car, and I had a coffee maker, and he'd have a cup of coffee with me, and we just talk, just shoot the breeze. Now, I don't know if he was going somewhere, going home, or if he was actually patrolling. I don't know. But, there's nothing that really happens here. Now, if there's an accident where a car is involved or there's personal injury involved or whatever, yeah, so that happens a lot, usually on the major roads like 466, 466A, 411, or is it 411? Highway 411 and 27, anyway, up there by Spanish Springs, Buena Vista, Morris Boulevard, those main roads, Highway 44. If there's any accidents on them roads, and even inside the villages actually, but very seldom in the villages, in the neighborhoods, you don't hardly ever hear about an accident. But on those areas, yeah, you'll hear about accidents, especially in the winter, because all the shopping centers, all the restaurants, all that stuff is open to the public. These restaurants inside the villages, that's not for residents only. Anybody can go to Brownwood and go to a restaurant down there. Anybody can go to Brownwood to the square. You don't have to be a resident here. I just want you to understand before you come down here to buy a house and be surprised. But there's nothing here that basically, other than maybe our rec centers and our resident pools and a few things like that, our activities like tennis, pickleball, things like that, those are closed to residents and their guests. But you get downtown where the businesses are at, grocery stores, barber shops, hairdressers, all that stuff down there, exercise centers, it's all open to the public, just so you know. What stops mobs and rioters? There is no rioters here. Don't be watching CNN news. Them people are all goofy. Just because it goes on in Portland and Chicago, don't relate that to an old person's retirement community in Florida. You're starting to freak me out. Can't be ignored as the villages is a prime target. Prime target for what? You know, my suggestion to you is this. If this worries you so much, and I don't know where you're from, Stefan, I think you're from Long Island. You live in Long Island. I've been to Long Island. I've been to Bronx. I've been to Queens. You live up there amongst all the freakazoids in the world, and you're worried about an old person's retirement community down here in the Sunshine State? I don't think this is the place for you. I can just tell by what you're writing. Either you're pulling my leg here, or you're just scared to death about something, and I don't know what. But I'm not even going to read anymore. It just overwhelms me that how scared you are. I seen in there where you're talking about carrying a gun. Good God, man. It's a retirement community. People here get up in the morning, go for a walk, have their morning coffee, and go play golf. This is what they do. They come home, they take a nap. Then they get up and go to the swimming pool for an hour and talk to the people up there. Then they come home, take a shower, and they change their clothes and they go to a country club or someplace around here and eat dinner. This is an average day in the villages. We don't carry guns. I mean, I'm sure there's a few people here that's got concealed weapons, but if they do, they keep it quiet. It's very quiet. It's very, nobody does anything. There's no rioters here. There's nobody going around and kicking in front doors and all that kind of stuff. I just think you're just too scared. So maybe you need to do a lifestyle visit. That'd be a good suggestion for you. Come down here and take about a week or whatever you can for a lifestyle visit and actually submerge yourself into the villages. Do it whenever you can, summer, winter, whatever. I don't care when you come down. And you'll see for yourself just exactly what it is, and you're going to find out that most of your fears are unfounded. They're just not. Listen, this is the fastest growing retirement community in the world. Everybody here cannot be wrong. That's all I got to say. With that being said, the rest of you, I hope you have a great day. I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's very possible, we're working on it, that Ira Miller might be a guest once again on the Wednesday Night Live show in October. This month is going to be Craig Morrison, the Medicare, Social Security, insurance expert. That's the best way I can describe it. You got any questions about Florida and medical information and what does Medicare pay, don't pay, Social Security, issues there, Florida insurance and paying hospitals, and what do this is the guy. I'm telling you, this is the guy. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here, and you, and you, and you, see you on the other side.